Putin knows that the time has come for him to have to try and negotiate something. The reality is here. Russia is learning this the hard way. It's time that the country understood why we need to spend more on defence now. And the next attack, the commentators are saying, would be up into the Baltics. I don't think so. I think Putin is more likely to go for here. In 2022, they were fighting for their survival, defending their capital with old Soviet stock and whatever the West could rush across the border. But fast forward to 2026, and the script hasn't just been flipped, it's been shredded. Welcome back to Battle Plans Exposed. I'm Philip Ingram. Today, we're diving deep into the explosive evolution of Ukraine's homegrown arsenal. We're tracking how Kyiv went from desperately lobbing artillery a few miles across a trench to developing weapons that are currently striking the deepest, most secure military factories inside Russia. But we're also going to do something a little different today. We're going to look at the raw data of these new weapons, spin the map 180 degrees and ask a chilling question. Just how far do these weapons really reach? Because the answer might be hovering right over your home. To understand the sheer scale of Ukraine's engineering miracle, we have to look at where they started. Early in the war, Ukraine's reach was practically limited to the horizon. Their standard field artillery maxed out at an effective range of about 20 kilometers. If they wanted to hit something further, they had to rely on modified commercial technology. They took Chinese-made agricultural drones, strapped explosives to them, and sent them on one-way trips. Then came the Neptune, originally an anti-ship missile, famous for sinking the Russian flagship Moskva. Ukrainian engineers rapidly evolved it into a land attack cruise missile. Suddenly, Ukraine could hit targets 300 to 400 kilometers away. But 400 kilometers wasn't enough. The Russian war machine was operating from air bases and oil refineries much further inland. Ukraine needed to go deeper. So they built the Swarm. By 2023 and 2024, Ukraine unleashed a terrifyingly effective lineup of one-way attack drones. We saw the UJ-22 airborne boasting an 800-kilometer range. We saw the sleek canard wing UJ-26 Beaver and the massive AN-196 Lyuti, both capable of pushing past the 1,000-kilometer mark. These were the drones that brought the war to Moscow. They skimmed over tree lines, dodged radar, and systematically dismantled Russian oil infrastructure, like the Tupiasi refinery. But this was only the warm-up act. Welcome to 2026. Ukraine is no longer just modifying drones in garages. They have become the Silicon Valley of defense. Enter companies like Firepoint. Operating out of covert, sprawling warehouses, they're pumping out a new generation of nightmare weapons for the Russian high command. First up is the FP1. This is a one-way attack drone that has essentially made the 1,000-kilometer range look like child's play. The FP1 boasts a staggering range of 1,600 kilometers, nearly 1,000 miles. Then there's Ukraine's entry into the ballistic missile game, the FP7 short-range ballistic missile with a 200-kilometer range and a blinding top speed of 1,500 meters per second. It is actively hunting high-end air defense systems like the Russian S-400. Its big brother, the FP9, is due mid-2026, and that will stretch that ballistic nightmare to 850 kilometers. But none of this compares to the crown jewel of Ukraine's 2026 arsenal. Unveiled in late 2025, the Flamingo isn't a drone. It's a heavy cruise missile. It carries a monstrous 1,150 kilogram payload. It flies just 40 meters above the ground to completely evade radar. And its range? 3,000 kilometers. In February 2026, Ukraine used these exact missiles to annihilate the Votkinsk plant, a Russian facility producing intercontinental ballistic missiles, located a mind-bending 1,300 kilometers from the front lines. Ukraine has officially joined the elite club of nations capable of ultra-long-range precision strikes. Now let's take a step back. We're used to looking at this war facing east. We watch these ranges stretch out across the vast empty steppes of Russia. But what happens if we take that exact same technology and draw a circle west? Let's look at the FP1 drone with its 1,600 kilometer range. launched from western Ukraine. That range easily swallows up all of Poland and Germany, and it could comfortably strike targets in Berlin, Vienna, or Rome. But let's talk about the big one, the FP5 Flamingo, a 3,000 kilometer range. If you draw a 3,000 kilometer radius from the Ukrainian border, nowhere in Europe is safe. At 2,100 kilometers, London is easily within the strike zone. At 2,400 kilometers, Manchester and Liverpool are swallowed up. The circle keeps going. It easily covers Edinburgh, stretches across the Irish Sea to Dublin, and pushes all the way out to Reykjavik in Iceland and the coast of Portugal. Let me be absolutely clear. Ukraine is a staunch ally, and these weapons are pointed firmly east. But looking at this map reveals a terrifying reality about modern warfare. The days of the UK being protected by the English Channel or Western Europe relying on geographic distances to stay safe are completely over. A startup company operating out of an undisclosed warehouse in a war-torn country has built a cruise missile that could theoretically hit Big Ben from a launch pad in Eastern Europe. Ukraine's evolution from 20-kilometer artillery shells to 3,000-kilometer terrain-skimming cruise missiles is one of the most remarkable military leaps in modern history. The Leopardi, the FP1, the Flamingo, these aren't just weapons, they're a warning. The technology of long-range destruction has been democratized. It is cheaper, faster, and more deadly than ever before. So if we ever need an excuse to upgrade the UK's defences, this is it. And I haven't used the scenario of what Ukraine did in Operation Spider's Web with drones in the top of a truck attacking Russia's strategic bomber fleet. Can you imagine those same drones attacking from a shipping container, say in Tilbury Docks outside London, or Liverpool, or Belfast? The reality is here. Russia is learning this the hard way every single night. The rest of Europe, we're just looking at the map. We're talking a good talk about what we need to do. We're working closely with the Ukrainians in helping them develop the technologies that they need and that they need to defend themselves. But are we seeing that turning into money that is being spent on buying those technologies and developing them for our own use on our own front lines, remembering the front line doesn't necessarily need to be geographic in the east. It could be coming from the Atlantic. It could be coming from within our own docks. It could be coming from anywhere where there's a rogue state. It's time that the country understood the reality of what the threat is and understood why we need to spend more on defence now. And what is fascinating is in 2022, the NATO countries and UK were supporting Ukraine, training Ukrainian soldiers to go to the front line. In 2026, we're now seeing Ukrainian soldiers coming out and educating NATO nations on the use of drones. But not just NATO nations, Middle Eastern nations on the use of drones and countering drones as well. We're getting reports that the Ukrainian infantry are saying the training that they're getting from the West, from NATO countries, does not stand up to the tactics and the drone tactics in particular that are being used on the front lines of Ukraine. We've got the most powerful military and most experienced military in the West in Ukraine, not part of NATO. Does NATO need Ukraine to make sure that its future is certain? All of this is to be decided by the politicians over the coming months and years. So all of this deep strike capability is pressurizing Putin into potentially a peace deal. Putin, is sitting there thinking at the minute in his little bubble that he's winning tactically. But it's becoming more and more apparent with the threat that we saw against the May Day parade, with him hiding in his bunker, with the attacks on the oil and gas infrastructure, with the Russian people being denied access to the internet, that Putin knows that the time has come for him to have to try and negotiate something. So he will want to try and take what he's got at the moment, at the very least, to keep a salami-slice of Ukraine. And it's that salami-slice that, if he gets to keep, The West will hail as peace in our times. Ukraine will go, we've still lost territory. And Putin will go, I just need to lick my wounds, stitch myself together again, and get ready for the next attack. And the next attack, as we think, the commentators are saying, would be up into the Baltics. I don't think so. I think Putin is more likely to go for here, the Caucasus. So why into the Caucasus? Because the Caucasus are traditionally an area that Russia has focused on. We've got the link into Turkey, a NATO country, into the northern Middle Eastern countries and its ally Iran. We've got its link into further control of the Caspian Sea, something we've seen Russia relying on, not just for its northern oil and gas platforms, but its logistic routes from Iran to Russia in resupply of weapons. We've got instability in Georgia, but most importantly, they're not members of NATO. I don't think Putin would be stupid enough to attack into a NATO country in the Baltics and therefore have the potential of triggering an Article 5 response. He knows he can't deal with that. What he wants to do is keep the West thinking and keep the West trying to guess what he's going to do next and keep the West on the back foot. He can do that best by salami slicing. Putin, or Putin's regime, because Putin's not going to last forever. Putin is not dictated by time. He's not dictated by the next election. He's not dictated by who's going to take over from him. He's dictated by what he wants to achieve from a grand strategic perspective. And he's already stated that. That's the regeneration of the old Soviet Union, with him, with his post at the center of it. Those that are likely to take over from him at the moment when Putin goes, whether it be through illness, old age, or other means, are probably as hardline, if not more hardline, than him. So at the moment, the indicators suggest that they would want to continue the same. They can salami slice every 5 years, every 10 years, every 15 years, a little bit more away. So they'll try and salami slice a bit of the Caucasus, maybe then go back to Ukraine, then maybe back to the Caucasus. But all of this time not doing anything that would necessarily trigger Article 5, because they'll depend on reading what Western governments are doing, playing our governments, creating and helping to feed instability both politically and elsewhere. And a lot of that instability is being fed by Russia's CRINC alliances, Russia, Iran, North Korea and China. It's all in their interests. And we're seeing evidence of that at the moment. We're seeing evidence of our political systems playing into what is going to be better for Russia. The UK alone, we have moved from a two-party political framework to a multi-party political framework. It's very easy for Putin to generate something that would support him in a multi-party environment and create disruption through the rest of the political processes, as we've seen him try to do in Europe. We see instability in German politics. We see huge instability in French politics. We're seeing the rise of what are classed as extreme right-wing parties and views elsewhere, causing disruption across Europe. We're seeing disruption in the United States, both in the MAGA movement internally, but also increased separation between Republican and Democrat politics. We're seeing disruption elsewhere. That plays into the CRINC countries and what Putin wants to do. We have to watch that very closely because they think in multi-generational terms and not just in prime ministerial or parliamentary or presidential election terms. Speaking of Iran, as I've been saying, we've got what's going on here. We don't know what Donald Trump is going to do. We've got the issue in the Straits of Hormuz, or Schrodinger's Strait, as I heard Major General Chip Chapman describe it last week. What is going to happen here? Well, the Americans don't quite understand the Iranians. And I think, from a personal perspective, waiting for negotiations isn't going to work. Donald Trump is going to have to start to hit Iran hard. He's already taken out the first and second layers of the government and the first and second layers of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. He needs to take another layer out. and try and negotiate with the new team. If that doesn't work, take another layer out and try and negotiate with them. Until he does that and causes Iran to collapse internally, nothing is going to change. Iran thinks in generations. They'll wait. They know Donald Trump has only got 3.5 years left. They'll wait that. They'll keep the strait closed until we see something happening. So we're going to have to get back to a shooting war. That's all we have for this short edition of Battle Plans Exposed. Please share it with your friends. If you like it, please put something in the comments below. But it's been a pleasure talking to you today. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Thank you. Goodbye.